Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the season finale of the 1985 kart season at Tamiami Park, which decided that year's championship. Throughout motor racing history, we've seen many seasons come down to the wire between friends, heated rivals, and even teammates, but it's rare to see a championship being decided between family members. However, that's exactly what happened in the 1985 kart season. Heading into the final race, the championship would be decided between two drivers, and they were Unser Sr. and his son Unser Jr. Not only did this race decide the battle between father and son for the title, it also gave a classic season finale in which the championship wasn't decided until the final few laps of the race. Before getting into it though, if you enjoyed the video, then please give it a like and share the video, and if you want to see more similar content, then you can subscribe to the channel. First, we must take a look back to see how we got an Unser versus Unser showdown at the season finale in 1985. Heading into the 1985 season, Unser Sr. was 45 years old and had been racing American open wheel cars at the top level for over 20 years. He was already a legend of the sport, having 3 Indy 500 wins to his name by then, and would add a fourth in 1987, and won the USAC title in 1970 and the kart championship 2 years prior in 1983. However, 1984 was a disappointing season by his standards, as he only finished 9th in the championship and had 2 third-place finishes as his only 2 podiums of the year. Unser was let go by Penske at the end of the year and replaced by Danny Sullivan, who had impressed in 1984 in his first full kart season with Doug Shearson Racing, winning 3 races and finishing 4th in the championship. Interest around the paddock wasn't high in Unser, and when he teamed with A.J. Foyt at the 24 Hours of Daytona in 1985, Unser said they had slightly talked about driving for Foyt's team in kart in 1985. However, he stated his only firm offer was to return to Penske as a third car for the season's 3 500-mile races, and that was what he would end up signing. The season's opener in Phoenix was postponed to later in the year due to issues with the track's surface, meaning the new season opener would be in Long Beach, and as that race approached, it was announced that Unser's services would be needed for more than just the 3 races at Penske. Alongside Sullivan, Penske ran Rick Mears, but he was involved in a heavy crash at St. Air Speedway towards the end of the 1984 season, causing severe leg injuries, and along with the team, he decided to sit out the season's opener to make sure that he was fully healed for the Indy 500. This meant that Unser would race the car at Long Beach instead. This would also be the first step he would need to become a championship contender. Meanwhile, Unser Jr., who would turn 23 just after the 1985 season started, would be entering his 3rd full kart season, having won his first race at Portland in 1984, and his road to a drive in 1985 wasn't straightforward either. Unser signed a deal to race for a new Lotus IndyCar project, but during the off-season it became apparent that the Lotus project would not be happening, and Unser had to look for a new ride. However, since it was the middle of the off-season, pretty much all the top rides had already been locked up, leaving Unser few options if he hoped to be competitive. Unser was then offered a lifeline though. John Paul Jr., who was another promising young driver, had signed to drive for Shearson in 1985, but was arrested for drug smuggling charges and the seat was now open. According to Unser Jr., Shearson asked Unser Sr. if he wanted the ride first, but Unser Sr. told Shearson that his son was now available as the Lotus deal was falling through, and the team quickly signed the younger Unser. Therefore, Unser Jr. effectively ended up taking the seat that was open because Danny Sullivan had left it to replace Unser's dad at Penske. Unser Jr. got off to a slow start in 1985 with a best finish of 7th in the first 3 races, while Unser Sr. finished 5th and 4th at the first 2 races, but then sat out the 3rd round at Milwaukee as Mears was driving the car. However, shortly before the next race in Portland, Mears decided his feet weren't ready to race at the road course, meaning Unser Sr. was brought in to drive again and produced another solid result of 4th, while Unser Jr. took his first podium of the season, finishing 2nd. Mears was then also ruled out for the next 2 races at the Meadowlands in Cleveland, and both of these were won by Unser Jr., while Unser Sr. finished third at both of them, and it was this pair of races that brought both Unsers in the championship mix. They were tied for second with 62 points and 21 points behind the season's fast starter Mario Andretti, who had been struggling for results after his hot start in which he won 3 of the first 4 races. It was also around this time the speculation started that Penske may have to find a way to let Unser Sr. race the rest of the season, as a title challenge was a realistic possibility, but Unser said it was too early to ask Penske about doing so. The next race was the Michigan 500, which Unser Sr. was originally slated to run anyways, and he finished second. And then at the next round at Road America, it was announced that Mears and Unser would effectively switch roles, with Unser driving the rest of the season, and Mears driving a third Penske at the remaining 500-mile race at Pocono, and again at a 200-mile race at Michigan. Unser responded with a 7th-place finish, which put him a single point out of the championship lead behind Andretti and Emerson Fittipaldi, who were tied for the top spot. Unser Jr., meanwhile, had a pair of frustrating races retiring from both of them, which included a heavy crash at Road America in which he suffered ankle injuries, but was still able to race the rest of the year. Mears then won the next race at Pocono with Unser Jr. second and Unser Sr. third, which put Unser Sr. in the championship lead, but he then scored a single point over the next 2 races, while Unser Jr. placed 4th and then 3rd. This moved Unser Jr. to the championship lead, but 8 points separated the top 4, so it was still a tight fight, and neither Unser had a good race at the 200-miler at Michigan, but neither did any of their immediate competitors, so they remained 1st and 2nd in the championship. They then finished 2nd and 3rd at Laguna Seca, with the older Unser finishing ahead, but Bobby Rahal won for the 3rd time in 4 races and was quickly emerging in the championship fight. Just 4 races prior, he was 62 points out of the championship lead and was now within 13 points of Unser Jr. and in 3rd place, and with 20 points available for a win, he had just as good a chance as anyone for the title. However, at the penultimate race at Phoenix, the Unsers made sure the title battle would be between themselves, as Unser Sr. dominated from pole lapping the field, while Unser Jr. finished 2nd and Rahal would only finish 6th. That meant heading into the final race, Unser Sr. sat on 139 points and Unser Jr. on 136, while Rahal was in 3rd on 115 points, meaning he was mathematically eliminated from the championship. The venue for the season finale would be at a new circuit in Miami, located at Tamiami Park, that was just under 1.8 miles long, or 2.8 kilometers, and featured 11 turns. Then kart chairman of the board, John Frasco, was excited for the new track, saying it had the charm of Laguna Seca as well as the possibility for the speeds of ovals, and added that the track was also wide and should produce good racing. Many of the drivers said they were impressed with the layout as well, with Mario Andretti saying the hard braking zones as well as the quick corners should produce good racing. However, while many seemed to be happy with the layout, there were still a few concerns about the new track surface, with some of the drivers saying it was too slick, but at the same time it was also praised for how smooth it was. Heading into the season finale, the focus would always be on the title contenders, but the fact that they were father and son added even more intrigue to it. To add even more intrigue, if Unser Sr. won the title, he would become the oldest driver to win an IndyCar championship at age 46, and if Unser Jr. won it, he would become the youngest title winner at just 23. Unser Sr. said that regardless of the result, he would win either way, and he was asked what would happen if they were battling on the track for the championship on the last lap of the race. Unser Sr. said, "I haven't thought about it, and I won't until it happens. I know it would make me proud. Of course, he would have to back off of me." Unser Sr. also said that despite his vast IndyCar experience combined with his son entering his first title decider, he felt that neither of them had an advantage apart from who would have the fastest car. Neither of the Unsers were in the battle for pole, which went to Rahal, but it was Unser Jr. who would have the better starting position of 8th, despite running into some exhaust issues in qualifying, with Unser Sr. starting 4 places behind him in 12th. However, both drivers had come to the front from similar starting positions during the season, and at a track that was supposed to have plenty of passing opportunities, both drivers still had a chance of a great result. A maximum of 21 points would be available in the race, with 20 of them being given to the driver that won, along with an additional point available for the driver that led the most laps. 16 points were available for second, 14 for third, 12 for fourth, 10 for fifth, and eventually a single point for 12th. This meant that if Unser Jr. won the race, he would win the title regardless of what Unser Sr. did, because even if he finished second and led the most laps, the two would be tied on points, and Unser Jr. would hold the tiebreaker due to having more wins. Assuming neither of them got the bonus point for leading the most laps, if Unser Jr. finished anywhere from second to sixth, he would win the championship if his dad finished 2 or more places behind him, and if Unser Jr. finished anywhere from 7th to 10th, his dad had to finish at least 3 places lower in order for the younger Unser to win the championship. The race would be 112 laps long, and the race could barely get started before the first incident. At the start, Mario Andretti locked his brakes while trying to pass Fittipaldi on the inside, which caused the two to make contact. The contact then forced Fittipaldi into Roberto Guerrero, who was on his outside, and sent all 3 cars into the wall, which caused them to retire. Ironically, this happened right between the two Unsers, with Unser Jr. the car ahead of the accident, and Unser Sr. in the row immediately behind it, but they would both fortunately make it through. That incident could barely finish before there was another 3-car incident. This time, it was between Michael Andretti, Kevin Kogan, and Raul Boesel, forcing all 3 drivers to retire as well, and a full course caution came out. The race had barely started and the 28-car field was already down to 22, and when the field lined up, Unser Jr. had moved up into 7th, while Unser Sr. was up to 9th, meaning that Unser Sr. was in championship-winning position in the early stages. When the race restarted, Rahal took off from second-place Jeff Brabham, appearing to be in a class of his own, but after the first lap of the restart, Brabham came into the pits with ignition problems. The team worked to fix the problem, and Brabham did get out on track again, but he would eventually retire from the issue. With Brabham out of the way, the two Unsers both moved up to place and were now in 6th and 8th, which meant that the younger Unser was now the one who was in the championship-winning position. The race settled in at this point, with Rahal calmly out in front, although there was a battle for second place between Bruno Giacomelli and Jan Lammers, with Giacomelli prevailing, while the Unsers remained in their 6th and 8th places. Around 35 laps into the race, the leaders started to come in for their first pit stops, which went cleanly, although Unser Sr. had a major scare when his engine cut out briefly when he went to exit the pits before going away. Through the pit stop sequence, the older Unser remained in 8th, while Unser Jr. had managed to pick up a position and move into 5th. On lap 50, though, the race would take a turn as Jim Crawford and Ian Ashley were involved in a crash together, which brought out a full-course yellow and kept the track under caution until lap 61. At the time of the restart, it was Rahal who was still out in front ahead of Giacomelli, Sullivan, Lammers, and Unser Jr. with Unser Sr. still down in 8th, but there was still a bit less than half the race to go. Rahal took off to an early lead once again on the restart, but a bit further down, Unser Sr. made a move on Arie Luyendyk for 7th, putting him once again 2 places behind his son, but it wouldn't last long as Luyendyk would pass him back shortly after. The race settled in briefly, although Alberto Moreno was pressuring Unser Jr. for 5th. On lap 68, Giacomelli spun and went into the wall from 2nd place due to a braking issue, forcing him out of the race, moving everyone including the Unsers up a position, but almost immediately after that, Moreno passed Unser Jr., dropping the younger Unser back into 5th, while right behind, Unser Sr. was pressuring Luyendyk to find a way back by. He finally found a way by for good a few laps later, moving to just 1 place behind his son, meaning that it was now Unser Sr. who was in championship-winning position again. Meanwhile, up front, Rahal was now being pressured for the lead by both Lammers and Sullivan, and gave it up when he was the first of the leaders to make his final pit stop, and unfortunately for Rahal, he had a bit of trouble getting into his pit box, costing him a few seconds in his stop. Both Unsers came in shortly after, with both of them having clean stops, and in the sequence, Unser Jr. jumped Moreno. Back at the front, Lammers and Sullivan were nose-to-tail battling for the lead when both of them came into the pits together. Sullivan had the quicker stop of the two jumping Lammers in the pits, and even better for both of them, both drivers jumped Rahal. There were now 34 laps left in the race, with the order now being Sullivan, Lammers, Rahal, Unser Jr., Moreno, and Unser Sr. Lammers immediately looked for a way by Sullivan for the lead but couldn't find one, and just 3 laps later, Lammers spun off the track and was forced to retire, ending what had been a brilliant drive up to that point. Rahal was still right behind to battle Sullivan for the lead, but Lammers' retirement had moved Unser Jr. up into third, but quite a way back from the leading pair, and it looked like there would be no more places for him to get unless one of the 2 leaders ran into trouble. Fortunately for Unser Jr., Moreno was between him and his dad, who was running in 5th, and if everything stayed as it was, Unser Jr. would win the championship. However, Unser Sr. could take the title if he could find a way to pass Moreno. Unser was a few seconds back, so it was definitely possible, and as the laps went by, he was slowly gaining on Moreno. As the laps were ticking down and there were about 10 laps to go, Unser Sr. was coming within striking distance, and it looked like it would be a battle down to the end. Moreno then got held up by a lap car with 7 laps to go, allowing Unser to close right up on him, and the battle was on. Over the next couple of laps, Unser looked for a way by, and then on lap 107 of the 112-lap race, Unser dove down the inside of Moreno into turn 2, in a move that he said he set up in a way that Moreno would have no way to fight back. If things remained as they were, Unser Sr. would have the points he needed to take the title from his son. He quickly pulled away from Moreno, not allowing him to challenge back, and the remaining few laps ticked down. At the end of the final lap, Sullivan, who had opened up a gap over Rahal, came around to take a second win of the season, while Rahal finished second. Unser Jr. came around a bit later to take third, and then eventually Unser Sr. came home to take fourth and win his 3rd championship by just a single point over his son. There were mixed emotions on both sides of the Unser family as the 2 embraced each other after the race. When interviewed after the race, the new champion Unser Sr. said, "I have really mixed emotions. I would have loved to see Al Jr. win, but everything worked my way all day, and that makes it all the worthwhile. Championships are hard to come by, and I feel sorry for Al, but I've been in that position before and fallen by the wayside. Still, I'm a racer and I have to race. I said yesterday that if he wins it, he's going to have to earn it. It just didn't happen." Unser Sr. also praised Mears for giving up his car or allowing him to race it full-time mid-season, saying that he wouldn't be champion without Mears and that he owed Mears a lot. On the other hand, while Unser Jr. was happy for his dad to win the title, there is obviously going to be disappointment he didn't win it himself. After the race, he said he was having issues with his water temperature in his car and then talked about his disappointment. He said, "I'm sad for myself and my crew who had worked so hard for this, but I'm so happy for Dad. I think my dad knew exactly what he was doing and what he wanted to do. We just fell short today." Despite winning the championship, Unser Sr. had not yet secured a ride for the 1986 season, and some of the questions turned to if he would be even racing. Unser Sr. said that he had no intentions of retiring, but also stated that he would only be interested in a competitive ride. He was then asked if he would take the same part-time deal with Penske that he originally signed up for in 1985, and said, "Yes, I probably would. I took that deal this year and look what turned out." That would be exactly the deal that Unser Sr. would take for 1986, and he would never have a full-time IndyCar ride again. He did the 500-mile races with Penske through 1989, along with mixing in a few other races with Penske and a couple other teams, in which he added to his legacy, winning his 4th Indy 500 in 1987, and also finished third a year later in 1988. He then continued to race the Indy 500 along with a few other races for other teams through 1993, while adding in another third-place finish in 1992 for Team Menard. He finally retired midway through the month of May in 1994, after originally being entered for the race with the small and underfunded Arizona Motorsports. Ironically, it was Moreno who would replace him, but he would later be replaced by Taro Palmroth, who failed to qualify the car. As for the younger Unser, despite the disappointment, he was just getting his career started, and like his dad, would go on to be one of the most successful drivers in the sport's history. Unser Sr. said that day that his son's day would come, and it did in 1990 when he won his first championship, and then added another one 4 years later in 94. He also added 2 Indy 500s to his name in 1992 and 1994, and continued to race in IndyCar until his final race in 2007. Over the years, we've seen quite a few other memorable IndyCar title deciders, some of which have also gone down to the dying laps of the final race, but never again have we seen a decider like this between a father and son. The unique situation that day made it so that whatever happened, and Unser was the winner. Considering all that, I think this race ranks as one of the most special moments in IndyCar's history. Let me know what you think, though, and where you think this race ranks in the greatest title deciders in IndyCar or even motor racing history. Thanks for watching.